But the question now goes back, not only Mr. Kalyango, but those people who are still not in his line, where I'm asking, how does single life actually affect the dating part of this person, a single parent, or their romantic kind of love, romantic life?
You know, in this area, I think, as for myself, my firstborn is 27.
Oh, yeah.
And my youngest is 13. So I'm in a situation now where I can date freely without having the fear that if someone is coming into my life, may affect my family or my children or my upbringing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've seen it all. I've sacrificed my life. You know, I've done what is supposed to be done. And now I think it's time for me now to, you know, to go out and, you know, enjoy my life as a human being. But one thing I also wanted to point out is that when you choose to be single, there is something called parenting. It takes two to mingle. You know, you as a parent, actually, I think Flavia mentioned it at one time. As a man, I remember I could understand my children normally called me captain because I'm so, you know, so hard in my decisions sometimes, but that's the nickname I got.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that, you know, when you're a single father, sometimes you may lose the other part. There are some goals and some, you know, negativities. The goal for me, I think, is like, you know what you're doing when you're doing it and how you're doing it.
Yeah.
And then the negative part is that, as I said, it takes two. Because despite the fact that I only have boys, but as a man, we don't have that kind of love of hugging and kissing and, you know, cuddling. It's not in me. It's not my thing of way of parenting. You know, I'm always like, I would say parenting and like commanding, which sometimes I even feel like, you know, we do play games. We do play, you will find me playing football. Just like, you know, Irene said, I'm always out with my children. Even way back in 2000, people always used to refer to me, that's how they used to call. You know, whenever you would see me in the park, I would be there with my children. If it was anything, I had to be there with my children. Any occasion that didn't accommodate my children, that was not part of me. You know, I never went out, simply not because I'm only Muslim, but because I also had children to take care of. You know, I wanted to go out, I wanted to do this and that, but I had the limitation because of the children. Now, what I'm saying that is sometimes, you know, parenting can be difficult in a way that when you are alone, you may end up being so harsh that you even find that even now that my children don't have that kind of love of hugging and kissing because, you know, men to men, it's like we only give
different touch.
You know, it's like, you remember to do this, remember to do your homework, you remember to do. So it's like, you know, I'm only reminding them. And it's like, you know, it's just like message all the time. Do that, do this, do this, do that. Because I don't want them to fail, to be failures. I want them, you know. And the good thing is that today I'm seeing the fruits of what I reaped. You know, I have my elder children both completed their universities with high grades. Actually, my son was one of the who got the highest when he was doing his bachelor. And then when he came out with his master's, it was like, so I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. I may have been hard on them, but now they can sit back and say, you know, this guy did a good job. We are now, you know, harvesting what he did. He didn't want us, you know, to play around without, you know, he wanted us to be home. He wanted us to tell him where we were. He wanted us to do, you know, all that. Now they can realize he didn't want us to smoke. He didn't want us to drink. You know, all these were the repercussions of now what they are investing. Now their earnings, they're earning from what they invested. You know? And now the youngest is playing football on a higher level. It's like, you know, I tell him, you go to play, you're training 4 times a week. You don't have time for, you know, going out at 10 o'clock with your friends. You don't have time for that. When you come back home, you need to relax. When you don't have time to go out and, you know, at 13, they're already going in discos. I'm like, you're not doing that. So he's missing part of his, you know, enjoyment. But then again, one day when he signs the contract, probably he'll come back and say, you know, you did help me. But it's not always, you know, a bed of roses. There are challenges as we grow. And I would imagine that even the mothers face the same problem, because they could be so sweet that they think that parenting has to be only sweet and, kisses and, hugs, such that you give them their way. Sometimes I see kids, because as you know, I'm also the chairman of the Uganda Association here. So I see kids, parent ladies calling me, what do you do when a child wants to take sweets instead of buying food? They let their kids decide what to eat in the house. I want this, if you don't give me, I'm going to cry. And then they cry and they rub their feet, and then the mother, okay, then we buy this. It's like buying sweets instead of buying food that is going to be beneficial to his growth. It's like, is the kid who is making laws and orders of the house or the rules? Like, who is now parenting who? So the problems are uncountable. You can't imagine. But those are the repercussions of being a single parent. I mean, we face a lot of problems. But as that said, we also enjoy. We enjoy. We don't have to. You don't have to shout with anyone. In my situation, I don't have to shout with anyone. So it's like
Actually, I thought the fact that Flavia is also single and you are single, being the fact that it's not. Anyway, it's a Euroforum to the listeners.
But what I'm trying to say, if I may put this right, you remember we had the Buganda to Egate Association.
Oh, true, yeah, true.
Now, some of the job that we used to do as men, as uncles, as Lady Irene mentioned, that people would come and, for example, I remember very clearly, a boy asked me, he's not a boy, actually, he calls me uncle, so he's my son, I call him son as well. He lost his dad way back when they were still young. He was around 12, 13. But, then growing up, he started having beards. And whenever he was shaving, he would have a lot of bumps. And he was like, uncle, how do you shave without having this? So I had to tell him, I had to tell him, I was the closest of men around him that he would share with certain things, because how he could not ask the mother. And it was just good enough that we were there. Then he said, you go to your uncle and ask him how he does it. So I was delighted, to have such things. But, Corona spoiled everything. So we are now in a situation where I just have to rebuild it again, because we need these associations. The fact that we are so far away from home. So we only have one another.
Oh, true.
We have to be together. We have to join. These associations actually do help us a lot. And being an immigrant, being so far away from home, there are so many problems we face.
Oh, true. Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to add.
What a submission. This reminds me the function which was happening in Oslo, which was connected with the children, and it was really massive. They did a great work. And there's another app we really shared last time here on the Euroforum. To be reminded, I'm forgetting it, but it's really doing magic to the kids. So, Mr. Kalyanga, I really applaud you for the word you've said, as creating those associations where you can at least create the figure element, which Irene was talking about. At least these kids can relate. Madame Flavia, the issue here is more of emotional, loneliness of a single parent. Sometimes they feel they're isolated because they're very busy. Sometimes balancing these elements is really so hard. You've heard Mr. Kalyango, he had to be very patient. What a patient man. They always say that a patient man can chew a stone. At least Mr. Kalyanga has really chewed a stone with the patience of going into the romantic part of it. But if it comes to the story of Lady Flavia piece, how are people really dealing with this in your eyes, in your lenses, the way you look at issues? How do single parents actually, single parenthood impact the emotions, well-being of both a parent and the child? You can also link up also the romantic part of it of a single parent.
Okay, well, the first thing is that, if you look, I think in the African setting whereby say a child is raised by a whole village, it still applies here in Europe. So because if you're going to be a single mom and it's only you, take your child to kindergarten, pick him from kindergarten, and that's the lifestyle all the time, then the child is not going to be able to experience other communities. So you have to take the lead to make sure that the child experiences other people. You have to develop a support system because you can't survive on your own without a support system. You have to have a few friends. They don't have to be like a lot of friends, but there are some friends, there's some relationships you can who actually say, oh, you're a single mom, and they support you and you see how your child is safe with them. So many times you'll be like, oh, I need to go out. Then you know your child is safe. I don't believe so much in babysitters. So I'm not someone who will be like, I have no idea who you are. Just because you're a babysitter, you're going to babysit my child. I don't do that. So, but you have people you have developed relationships with, and those people are able to really, you know, that this is a home and my child can be able to flourish in that home. And you observe, not just the fact of saying, oh, you have never seen your child with this person. And just because you're in a fix and you're like, okay, hello, how are you? Can my child come over? No, you have to first observe. You should have first been in that home with your child. And then you observe like, oh, he feels comfortable, he feels safe. And therefore, because children need to be safe. So, and then, and then you also see what are the emotions of the other person towards your child. Because, people can be two-faced and you leave a child with that person and you realize that a child goes through some kind of certain things, the way they talk to them, and that, because children are very sensitive, you can affect their emotion, their self-esteem in a very simple way, and they may never even tell their parent about what happened. So it's your responsibility as a parent to know, who am I living with my child? But you can't just be like, I live in an island. There are times you need to go in places whereby you can't go with a child at that particular time. But also there's a lot of activities where you can be able to go with a child. And then the other thing is you to be able to groom your child to be able to be with people. So that not every single time you're going out in a place and a child becomes the pain and you feel like, why am I even here? I would rather go, because either the child is crying, the child is irritating. You kind of groom the child to be able to be in places. You give the child the discipline so that when you're in a place, you're able to be in that place, enjoy yourself. And the child to also be able to reach out to people, interact with people. I can't really explain how you do that, but there's a way you can relate with a child to make sure that a child's emotions are free, they're open, because it depends on how much you're relating with a child, and that child is going to be open. It's going to be an open child. One of it is more attributed, if you talk about the loneliness of a child, is about if you are present, because we live in the diaspora, there is limited possibility of a parent, more so a single parent, being present in a child's life. So the biggest loneliness that the children get through is the presence of the parent, because it's about wake up very early in the morning, drop the child to kindergarten, run to work, get away from work very late, pick up the child, then get home, eat your food, go to bed. But that is not the best routine for a child. You need to be, and then when you reach home, you also need our social media, this and that. But there's time for you to be able to say, this, you have to have routine. You would say, on Fridays, we go out with my child. When I get my child from kindergarten, I don't have to go home. We either go home, take a shower, dress up, and go to either visit a friend or go out or do something. And then you can decide, like, on Saturdays, I need to refill as a mother. Because if you're single and it's all about parenting, you get bored. And one thing that children are not going to give back to you the same you give them when they grow old. So that's why you find there's a lot of bitter old parents, because you get all to your child and you are left empty. But when the child grows, they have their own focus. You're
That's
not.
True. Yeah.
So therefore, that's why I always apply the rule, the plane rule. When you're on the plane, what do they tell you? Put on your life jacket before you put on your child's life jacket, which means that if you get lonely, all that loneliness, where is it going to go to? Who is it going to go to? You're going to pour it to that child. The child will ask you a question. Instead of answering in peace, you're going to shout to that child. Because you feel, there are many times I'm on groups with parents, and you find a parent saying, oh, this child came to ruin my life because my life is not anymore. I cannot do anything with it. So you have to make sure that you fill up your cup. Because if you haven't filled up your cup, you're not going to be able.
Yeah, true.
You won't be able to give to that child. If you feel you're getting overwhelmed, you're not supposed to forget about you. Be like, oh my God, I can't even make my hair because I have a child. You need to fill yourself. Dating, you can be open for dating, but the only difference is that when you are a mother, the dating or the relationship can change because you have other priorities. The priorities you have include your child. So so the lenses you have are pretty different. And again, it's a whole mix of things. And then, of course, there are many people who have the rule of saying, oh, most people will always use the lens of a child, because if they know you're a single mom, the first thing most guys are going to do, they're going to go through your child. Because they know the saying that if you love the woman's child, then you have, but sometimes it could be fake. It's not real. They're just trying to target you. So it's a complete way that you have goals that, and again, when you become a parent, you automatically become more mature. I don't know about others, but in my personal experience, because you have a big responsibility of someone else, there's a way it makes you more focused. There's a way it makes you, it changes you. It changes you completely from the person you were before you had kids. So, but there's a whole possibility. It shouldn't be an excuse. It's a personal choice of saying, you could have a personal choice of saying, I don't have the time to juggle between two relationships. That is because you have a younger child who needs you, and then you're going to have another baby, because you always say, our baby, you have another baby who also needs your attention, and you're not going to be able to juggle between these two babies.
Amazing.
So, but it's a whole possibility.
I take long to get quiet when I'm listening at submissions, but there's a way you've humbled me. I came with this energy. Yes, when nature calls, you just get a relationship and then, but you've humbled me well, realizing that at times relationships you're in can also direct how you look at issues or you wear certain lenses. You had something lastly to say? Or maybe we shall get it later. Before we go ahead, Irene, I think for you, you're copying notes. I wish you don't go that angle. So Irene, please never make decisions that are looking terrible and you affect our kids. We are not ready to help you. But online, we are having a lot of people. We're having Mr. Sebagala Isaac is saying, what a topic. He says, nice topic. The app I was talking about, it's called Koza and Nancha. It's an app designed by one Ugandan from the US. Yes, and it's an app. You can always get it, and it's, if you're Ugandan, actually it has languages. I think something like 5, where it's teaching. It's actually those kids who are in the diaspora, who are Ugandans. At least they can connect. So if they can connect with the lingo and somehow with the culture. So if you go ahead and download that app. It's called Koza and Nancha. And still online, we're having Rizky saying great input on general parenting. Can you bring us back the topic? Sounds more like a lecture on parenting than the experience. Yes, I think that's with that one. We've already answered it, because these are online comments that came before. So at least we're at par, Lady Risk. Then there was another one, Mr. Butera is saying thanks for your time, guys. And then we have Farida saying, Mr. Kalyango, thanks for tagging me. Oh, okay, Mr. Kalyango did a great work. We didn't know that. Then there's another comment here which says, we make decisions, but rarely predict the future. People change and most people get together for different reasons that can be mistaken for love. But there are also good people. There are also good people out there that can raise someone else's child. It's a choice, though, to be alone. I think she's trying to connect on the issues where we try to talk about the decisions we have to make as a single parent, and then you want to engage into another person. So it's a challenge for everyone out there. But thank you, people online, for your contributions. And my panelists, trust me, you're digesting the topic very well because we are really appreciating. I'll go straight a little bit to Lady Irene. I don't know if you're a little bit certain, and if you're not so certain, just be so brief. Are there any specific resources or programs that single parents can access to help with financial stability in Norway or in Europe in general?
I know that because we have a welfare system, I know that as a single parent, you have more, the money you get is different. And I know, for example, if you can also get the days when you are sick, it's different. So there are different resources, which we all have. But as a single parent, you may have more days, or you may get more money, or you may have, there are what we call hjälpapparater. There are resources that can be helping. I'm not so certain because in Norway things change, but when you go nav.no, you can always see what applies for you in a given situation. So they must be help. And then there are also organizations where single parents, so they share experiences and knowledge. And also I know that if one of the parent, whereby one of the, you can get, for example, from the husband to be, if I'm the one staying with the kid 70%, and the other parent maybe has 30%. So whereby I get more money from his salary. So there are many ways of helping, but I'm not so certain, as in, I don't have the experience myself, but I know that under NAV, it's there, because even when we get mama permission, mother leave, the maternity leave, it changes for somebody who is a single parent. That's what I can say.
Yes, actually, it's a wake-up call for those people who are listeners from Norway. At least her submission really works, and you're not very far away from the Scandinavian scheme, because I think we all have something in common. This drives me back to Mr. Kalyango with this question, where I'm going to ask about what support systems are available for the single parents, and how effective are they in providing support?
Actually, in Denmark, it's just a similar situation with Norway. And it's actually, most people even look at that as a way of being single, because actually you get more money, as she said as well. We are being supported to be around because they know that it requires a lot financially and everything. So they really give you, some money to sustain yourself. And they even support you in the house rent. They will even support you, you're renting a house. You get a little bit help there as well. And then you get salary, of course, just same situation.
Okay, but then are there in a legal or legal or policies changes that could better this single parenthood?
There are actually, there are many legal ways. They will even advise you actually how to do it. Now, like in Denmark, from 2008, they realized that people spend a lot of time, educating themselves. And when you want to uplift the standard of the situation, the standard of the country, then you educate people. So they realize that people finish their education when they're around almost clocking 30. By the time they find the right person, it's approximately 33, 35. So you can only have one child. And in most cases, they realize that people fail to get the right person. By the time they find the right person, then it's almost late for the lady. So they initiated a situation that you can have a child that you are only a mother without even a father. You just decide, I want this kind of man. He has to be this big, he has to be this tall, kind of eyes and everything. Then you get that child, and you are solely alone with that child, and the system will support you in every way legally. So you have the child as a single parent. That is very normal here now in Denmark. And even fathers, you can be a single father and then have a mother who is willing to do that. But as long as it's not supposed to be paid, you can do that and then get a child and they get your sperms, because like, if you're gay and you don't have a woman, but you can still have someone who is willing to have that, and then they get the sperms and do it for you. Child, the lady carries the child, and when she finishes, then she gives you the child, and then you have all the legal paper. But in US, some people are doing it for money. They do it, they do it for the sake of money, and then you get all the legal status of the child. Whereby here in Denmark, it's not supposed to be sold. You're not supposed to earn money out of it. You can do it if you're helping someone. If you are a man and you want a woman to help you have the children, she can do it, but as long as there's no money inflicted within the two of you, then that's part of it. So we also have the legal aspect of it, which is also totally, most people actually are embracing it. And then it's really, there are many ladies now who are having single parents solely.
Well, it's a word submission. Then I'll just go to Lady Flavia just to do some bit of emphasis, if you feel you're in line with Mr. Kalyang. The fact that you all stay in Denmark, is there any legal or any policies you really see where the government has come in to at least to uplift or to stand in with the single parents to make their lives better?
Yeah, I think they do support the single parents, and especially for single parents that have a child without any other parent involved. There are two different ways. You can be single, but you are co-parenting with another father or with another mother, but the only difference is that you're not staying under the same house. So you are two different single households, because you could separate, and then you have what you call, like, how do they call it? Like, you have physical custody of both. Like, a child is allowed to stay together with the father as much as able to stay with the mother. So you're both single, but you actually like parenting the child together. And it's when you're single and maybe the father says, I don't want to be involved, and all the government can do is force the father to pay some money to the mother, which comes automatically. It can even be that money that is directly cut off from his salary and directly put into the account of the mother, or vice versa, but there is no really attachment, that even the father may not be seeing the child. So then there is more support, because then the other person is completely alone. They are not, the other father or the mother is not involved. So there is more support. And in some cases, that person gets a social worker who will help. This comes even at home, visit you at home and find out how can they be of assistance. Or if the child is in school and is having difficulties, then they'll come in to assist, like, what can we do for this child? Where can I'm saying that because I have a friend who really gets a lot of help in that way. So you find like, okay, is it good for the child to be taken to this school? But no, it's to go for this summer program, or no, because it's going to benefit her, because maybe the child is struggling in school because of the fact that the child it's a single mom, it's a single parent situation. So there is going to be a social worker who is going to work closely with you, so close with you, to make sure that, or maybe if you have a child who has a few complications, a certain kind of disease, then they're going to be very attached to you and help you. And then the other part, sometimes if you are a single parent who want to thrive, I feel sometimes there's less of support, because many times, you should know, they support you under a certain threshold. You have to have a certain income you're earning in a year. So if you're going to be earning more than that income, then you're like, you don't qualify to be a single parent, because you have to qualify for a certain given amount of money that you earn a year to be considered a single parent.
Wow.
So if you're earning more than that, then you don't get as much as other parents get, or you don't get as much support as other parents get, because you are an able parent. So sometimes it can be a way that it keeps parents a little bit down, and they find like, okay, if you used to be like, the government is giving you subsidies on your rent, it's giving you subsidies of paying this and that, and then you realize that if you live under a certain threshold, you're not able to dream bigger, because you feel like every time you get more money, you're gonna send it over to the other side. Whereas then you'd be like, oh, I'd rather not do so much, and I keep being supported. But sometimes other parents be like, you know what, I can't be limited for the fact that I'm a single parent. I'm going to do my best and provide for my child and provide for myself. So unless I'm not able, but if I'm able, I'm going to work as much as I can in find better ways to earn more money, instead of being limited by how much help you're getting from the state.
Wow. Mr. Kalyango, something little about what she has been trying to submit. How safe or how comfortable have you been with the support system financially when it comes to the child support?
Well,
do you think it's really enough? And in any case, have you utilized it fully to its capacity?
Yes, of course I did. But as Flavia said, sometimes, they can give you the money and then they come and take it, because they said, you earned a lot of money here, you earned a lot of money here. So you're not supposed to have this money. Then they'll come and take it. You have to pay back. So it's like, sometimes, in order not to have all those problems, you just tell them, I don't want any help, I can survive. But there's some there's certain other money that we get that it doesn't matter how much you earn, you have to get that. So that is given to you after every third month.
Yeah.
With that, there is nothing. You can always get that. But the other money that is supposed to, the money that Flavia was talking about, is when you earn a lot of money and then you get like help paying your house rent, and they will come and take it back to you. So sometimes, in order to not have all those problems, just tell them, I can survive, I don't need any help, and then just go on.
Okay, as we come almost to conclusion, I have only two remaining questions for both of you. That will be Mr. Kalyango, and then Mrs. Flavia. It's very simple, because you're, I will say, kind of the victims in this line. What are some of the strategies you've tried to use to balance work and parenthood responsibilities as single parents? Because it's one thing which is really so challenging, but how have you managed to make it to balance work and parenting?
You see, if I may start, it's like we have the system here. The system gives you the ability to balance and juggle through being a single parent and doing other things. You see, I've managed to be a single parent, but at the same time, I've also been a football coach for over 20 years. At the same time, I get time for training. At the same time, life has not been so difficult, in other words, because when you look at me, I don't look like someone who is just working and sitting in the house. You know, I do have time to train. It's just the way you juggle. Like you remember last night we were talking, I was making dinner by 8. I finished making dinner. I went and prayed. After finishing prayers, I went to bed after eating. You know, I woke up 5 in the morning, finished prayers, I started reading books because I'm also, you know, I'm also in education. I'm working at the same time, still studying.
Yeah.
So when I finished that, then I started washing clothes, then I did my lunch. So it's like, how do you program your day? But you can find some people, they could even be 2 people in the house, as we mentioned earlier, but all they do is drinking and sleeping. You know, it's like if when someone is in the house, he's either drunk or she's drunk. So, you know, the fact that I've also been a chairman of the association, the Ghana Association, I've seen situations where people, the children have been taken away from them. And I tell them, oh, Mr. Kayao, can you please help? I'm like, you know what? This child has been done a favor, taking them away from you. You know, when I visit their houses, look at what the kind of situation people are living with the kids. I'm like, you know what? The government has all the right. If I was the government, I would have taken this child a long time ago. I've been in a party where I see kids being given alcohol because they want the children to sleep. Then the parents can fest, and you know, I've seen it all. So what I'm trying to say is that you can have all the time you want, as long as you program your life equally. You will always find balance for you. There will always be time for everything. You don't need to drink so much. Be there with your kids and family. Go and train, enjoy life, and life goes on.
Well, thank you very much, Lady Eileen Lady Flavia. Irene, don't worry, you're still safe. I'll give you the last one, but I would love to digest the people in question here. Lady Peace, there's a question online which I wanted you to at least to give an opinion. They're saying that is it true that children who have grown up with single parents are more likely known to embrace marriage?
I would say it depends. And when I say, like I said in the beginning, rejection. So if a child grew up in where he felt he was rejected by either the mother or the father, and they will feel like, I don't want to ever be in a position to have a child, and this child goes through the same experience I went through. Like what Mr. Kalyanga was saying, it would be like, I would choose to be single because I don't want my children to experience what I experienced. So people will take that decision because they don't want to experience that. Then the other thing is about the experiences they go through. You could be a single man, but you get from one relationship to another relationship to another relationship. And there are many children who have been molested by the people that mother is in a relationship with, and the mother is even blinded, you've seen all those things happen, is even blinded not to believe that can be able to happen. And even whereby mothers have been confronted at a later age, they say, I knew it was going on, but I did not know how to face it. But the only way to face it was to deny it is not true. And they make the child look evil, and just because they cannot accept what it is. So you really have to put on, because if you're a single parent, once you have accepted that, okay, this is the situation you're in, you have to have tools, because you are not the very first person to be single. You're not the first single parent. There's so many people in generations to generations that have been single parents and have raised children who have no signs, who are doing greater than even kids that have been grown up in families with both parents. So it's about how to me, I don't see it much from single parenthood. I see it from the individual person parenting. How are you parenting? Because you could even be from a marriage, like your father and mother were living together, but they were fighting every single day. and you don't want to experience that again, and you choose not to marry because you don't want, you fear that maybe if you get married, you'll get married to some narcissist, or you get married to some alcoholic who will treat you the way they treated your mother or the way they treated your father, and you don't want to go through that. So a lot of it comes from an individual person as parenting, because sometimes one thing I can really say is that being a single parent does not have a lot of difference from being parenting with two people. Because I have people I talk to, I have families I can observe. You realize that most of the difference is the fact of there could be a more ability of more finances, because there are two people are contributing, but there are families whereby they're single, but there are two parents in a home, but only one person is contributing financially. So it's almost the same, because there are people in relationship, but it's only one person contributing. There are mothers in who are married, and the father does nothing for the child. The only thing that person does is to bring money on the table. And sometimes if you go, let's say, give example of Uganda, or because there are studies that have shown where you find that the mother is the breadwinner and the father is doing completely nothing in a home, or vice versa. But these people are still married. So it's not much about a single. It has been, the whole thing is that this has been stigmatized from all the way, that if someone is single, this is supposed to be, and this and that and that and that. But it has been shown that it's not true. Like in Denmark, there is less poverty in single parents families. There is less poverty, because one of the challenges is poverty, not to be able to access resources. But in Denmark, you're able to access resources depending on how you do it. So it's from an individual person, but however, it takes more effort from a single parent, because it takes more effort. But another part, I think, it's about wisdom, because actually the definition of a single parent or a single mother or single father is an adult living with any child below the age of 8 in one household without any other person. If you have another person, that's not a single parent. If you have any relative living with you, then you're not single.
Wow.
So
then you're not single is the last word she said, but time is never on our side. But I would like to throw the last question, and I'll be privileged to give this question to one of my colleagues we work with. Somehow is also in a bracket connected to that, though I still happily married, but somehow the fact that he has a child somewhere else is still co-parenting. So I would love to see Mr. Mugisha, if it's possible, you can come. I have a question for you as I wait for my guests to give their last remark, and we call it a wrap-up. So Mr. Mugisha, wherever you are, just try to surface on board, but online, I would love to thank everyone who has been with us. You guys, you make us proud, and then we always feel we have the energy to come back again. So Mr. Mugisha, Moses, this is a question for you as you prepare yourself to be on. The question is, how can co-parenting relationships be effectively managed to ensure the well-bringing up of a child? Mostly for we, the Afro-Pins, or we, the Africans who are in a long distance co-parenting. Say, for example, I'm married here with a child, or with a wife, and I have a child, but then I have also a child in Africa. How do you deal with this? Mr. Mugisha.
Yes, Mogi.
Thank you for
I'm
accepting.
sorry, my background isn't good enough, and in that case, I would humbly request that I pass on the question to Lady Irene.
Okay.
Yes, I would probably convey my submission without the camera off, but I feel uncomfortable to do that.
But with that request,
yes,
okay. Please. Your request has been actually accepted. So Irene, the question just comes here. If you really had the good sight to see people who are into this situation, mostly I would target with the Afro-Pins or the Africans, wherever they are in the diaspora, who are in a situation where they're having also kids back home. Question is, how can they actually do the co-parenting to effectively manage their well-being of the kids?
Thank you very much, Mugisha. It would have been better him sharing his lived experience.
Yeah.
Let me try.
Irene, I trust you. We share a lot in common.
Thank you for the trust, but this is my perception, and sometimes once you are in it, it may change. It may be very different. But I think that, like I said earlier, that these are two different relationships. If it happens that, let me use Mugisha. Mugisha has a kid in Uganda, and he has also maybe here. So I would assume that what is the best interest of the child. So is to put these, because these are three relationships we are looking at. We are looking at the relationship of the mother with this child, and then we are looking at the relationship of the father with this child, and then we are looking at the relationship of the kid with these two people. So I think it will be very important to know what is the best interest of the child here. And that one can help in co-parenting, because they may be, in Uganda we say kusike migua. They may be that, they may be that you think, maybe you, the wife in Uganda, you think this way, and you, the father in Europe, you think this way. But if you can, like Flavia said, have wisdom, and you think that, okay, now our relationships failed, maybe it will never happen again, but what can we do so that we give our child the best opportunities? Because maybe the one in Europe has more opportunities. So for me to say my child is gonna be here when I know now that will be X. My ex has more opportunities for my child, maybe to have a better education in Norway or Denmark or Sweden. Maybe I have to let what I think is the best interest for the child, and I remove feelings. And again, also the new person in their lives. It's very complicated, because also there's another relationship I didn't talk about, the new people in their lives. They are also part of this mix.
They become part of the family, actually, the whole situation,
Yes, so you have to be dealing with them, and maybe communication is very important, to be open about it, because now the other mother or the other father on this side, how are they going to be part of that? Because now if I say, okay, I'm bringing the child to Europe, the new woman in your life, Mr. Smugi, how is he going to, what communication have you put there to see that you're on the same page?
Same page,
Yeah, on the same page. But if if we know that this is my child, this is what I want for my child, and there is things are very clear, the communication is very clear, I think then co-parenting becomes easy. But it's very complicated, because we have different people involved in all this. There'll be some phone calls, there'll be some emails at weird hours, and all these things. How are you going to navigate through these different partners we are having? So co-parenting is very difficult, but I think with clear communication, with the best interest of the child, with the involving the child and wisdom, and I think it can work. I don't know, Mugisha, if I'm representing you well, but right now this is what I think. Next time you ask me, I may have a different answer. But on that very point, also, I encourage people to if you are happy in the new relationship where you are, to wish each other well, to pray for each other, because if you are happy in the new relationship you are, and even this one, most of the time I think co-parenting becomes easier. But if the person is still thinking that maybe you'll come back, maybe is not happy in this relationship, then there are some entanglements there. But if everybody's happy wherever they are, having a good relationship, I think even co-parenting becomes easier. And another last thing I would also think about, which I was reflecting on when we were discussing, was this doesn't go only to single parenthood, but also parents. We should remember that these children after 18, they're gonna move. You need to, I was thinking about when you talked about romance and relationship and hobbies, we need to cultivate our own hobbies or our own lives. We need, the saying, I'm sacrificing life for my children, it's good, but also you need to have your own life to do the things you can't give what you can't give what you don't have. Self-love, have some alone time, do the things that make you happy. Because I've seen some women where like all their lives it has been children, and then once children move out, then they're like, now what am I going to do? No hobbies, no relationships, no like cultivated their career. Everything was all about children. And once the children move into their new lives, then you are going to be that mother, the letter we read in the beginning, the article, that mother who is going to become a problem to the new life because you are clinging on. You didn't build your own identity as a person besides being a mother or being a father. You don't have hobbies. You didn't cultivate relationships with the fellow men or fellow women. And then you become a problem because all your life it has been these children. So I'm not saying that don't sacrifice or don't give it all, but I'm saying also know that they're gonna move out. Like I use an example of my mom. We were many in the family, but now it's only her and her husband in a big house. And if all her life she didn't like cultivate the relationship with the mothers union, the neighborhood, hobbies, then it will be she'll be like, oh, my children are abroad or they traveled or what. But because she managed to have these other relationships.
I think you're muted a little bit. Lady Irene, you're muted. Yeah. But I think we've really gotten the concept, and we really do appreciate that wrap up from Lady Irene. It was really massive. Too much to learn. She's talking about this co-parenting where it calls for respect, mutual respect for your partner wherever she is, and then communication. And then also she tried to align this with what Peace talked about when she said that much as you, like in the way they say, put on your life jacket first before you cater for another one. It's a good one, and really, it was a wake-up call that you should not empty all your energy to the kids. At least at some time, they also have a life to take to. So once they leave, are you going to remain empty? It's a question for everyone to digest. But Mr. Kalyango, as you going to give us your last submission and the wrap-up, I just wanted you to hit a little bit on that question, that element of cooperating, because at least you have friends who are in that line, whom you've seen, they're dealing with this. So question is, how effective can you manage to do that? Yes, parents are all there, and then the kids, how do they cooperate? How can they effectively do it? And then later you give us your last remark.
If you're talking about being in two different continents, then I think that's different. Because personally, that's where I was. That's where I was. But I was so delighted that the lady who gave birth to my children was so understanding, that she knew and valued the fact that the kids will have a better future here, having the education here. So besides having the affections, she realized, she analyzed the issues on a wider perspective. In the long run, what is going to benefit our children, as she just put it out. Because this has nothing to do with how educated the lady is, but it's something to do with the intellectuality and looking into the goal into a wider perspective. And I was delighted that I had children with someone who had that broader mind. So there were no difficulties. When I mentioned it, she just said, you know, I believe in you, I trust you, and I know that you're doing it for the betterment of our children. And it so happened. But then again, looking at the relationship I've had somewhere, because I have, as I said, I have five boys. I have 3 children with her, and then 2 children here in Europe. But you know, sometimes I realize that it depends when you move from one another, when you divorce.
Yeah,
it's always, there's a lot of affections inflicted, and sometimes the wishes you make to one another, when you separate, you know, they create a lot of gap. If someone really lied to you a lot, so you don't want these people just to run away with the, you know, those evil intentions. So we tend not to look into the children as who are, you know, becoming the victims of circumstances. We forget about all that, because then the anger comes in and then it becomes a war. And as we normally say, when the 2 elephants fight, it's always the grass that becomes the victim of circumstances.
it's true. Yeah.
You see, so it's like, it's always the kids who are paying the price for being between 2 adults who are fighting. So in most cases, unknowingly, we always reciprocate into what happened. How did this go? How could I be so stupid to believe this? You know, it's like you always look and then forget that someone very important is paying the price. So whatever the case, is always, you know, how deep were you rooted into this relationship? How much did you invest into this relationship? You know, we've seen people who, you know, who can't even stand after the relationship. They go down. It's not that I've been the strongest, but I've just been so lucky that these relationships didn't affect me so dearly. But people cannot stand after the relationship. So it's like, how much do we invest in? And then, as we normally say in Uganda, that when you're beaten in a hole once or twice, when you put your finger again in the 3rd hole and face the same repercussions, it's like then you're an idiot.
That's true.
So the first time you mess up, the second time you're allowed to try it, but don't be so stupid again to try it the 3rd time, because then no one is going to excuse you for that. So I thank you for having me. It has been so great having these 2 ladies on, as we discuss these issues on an intellectual part of it, and on the other aspect of having seen what happens, how it feels to be single. So I think it was so lovely having me around. I appreciate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalyango. It's quite a great discussion you always throw whenever we call upon you to give, you know, a word with us. I'll never take it for granted. At least you always do magic whenever I call upon you. Thank you very much, and thank you very much again. Issues today about single parenthood is something which you cannot fully digest and then we finish. But one thing you have to know, if you want to be in your child's memory tomorrow, endeavor to be in their life today. Let's get the last submission from Lady, any last remark from Lady Peace as you wrap it up.
One, I would wrap up with saying that if you are co-parenting, don't co-parent in madness. Make room for understanding. Avoid attacking the other person all the time, because if you don't have peace, that affects the child. And the other thing, children are emotionally intelligent. They can feel how their parents are. They can tell without words. So you have to be in a good place as a person. Then the other thing we didn't not mention anything about it is, if you are a single parent or even any other parent, it is very important to make sure that your mental health is in place. Because if you're not mentally in a good place, all that negativity you have in your head, it's the child who gets it. It's the child who gets the wrong answers. Is the child who gets the deniers? Is the child who gets shouted at? It's the child's self-esteem that is killed because you're not mentally stable in whatever way. So, but if you, and then put goals. What are your goals? You have, as a parent, you should have goals. Even if you're a single parent, you should have goals. What are your goals as a parent? What are the key things you want to make sure that you want to see happen to you as a parent? You have to have those goals. You have to have boundaries. Like, these are boundaries. Even with a child or with a parent you're co-parenting with, you have to have certain boundaries. So when you have those boundaries, they always act as a guideline for all of you, for the child. And the child grows up knowing that I can't cross this. Even within, like, I can't cross this because when I do this, then she has already learned that when you do this, this is the repercussion. So you learn that. And the child is always knowing that I don't go there. So when you build boundaries and teach children to build boundaries, and then, like, we started with the first statement that not to rise up brats, kids that it's not a fact of single households that you are a single parent, that's why a child is the way it is. Let us take responsibilities, because once we become parents, it does not matter if you're single or you're married, you have to take a personal initiative, because no one forced you to have this child. You made a choice. There's never an excuse, because you always made a choice. There's no mistake. There's no child that comes as a mistake, because you made a decision. Otherwise, there would be never no conception unless a person was raped. So any child that comes, it's a personal responsibility, and we should own it, whether it's a man or a woman. We should always own the responsibility to make sure that the lives we have created, they don't live in shame, but they live to be great.
Great, yeah.
Yes, and then I am grateful to be on this panel and all the great information that I got to learn. Like Mr. Kalyango just said a saying that I had never had: when the two elephants fight. I never had that. That is really good. So I'm really grateful to learn from Irene, to learn from Kalyango, to learn from you. And I hope that the people who have listened to this and the people who will listen after, they'll have something to take home. And let's hope that we are going to be raising great children in the diaspora who will be representing the Africans in a good way.
Here's what is submission from Lady Peace Flavia. I'm well that when I called upon you in a late time, you really took time and then you accepted at least to come and share some words of wisdom. And allow me to say, please, we shall be calling you upon at least whenever we need you to share some words of wisdom, because we feel you are insightful. To the viewers, we always bring people here. We feel they are worth and are wise enough at least to share issues that are really connected to us. So we're just so proud with all the guests that have ever surfaced onto our platform. And people online will already thank you very much. Unless otherwise, but there was a question which was left untouched, though it was connected to the one of Irene. It was Lady Risk. She said great points. Would have been interesting to hear Mr. Mugisha's inputs on how parenting is in Norway compared to Uganda, and how he is coping to align and not to conflict. I think it's a great topic of discussion. She gave her all our powers to Lady Irene to digest that. But I think we have another topic related to this, because we cannot fully digest sensitive issues like this, where majority of people, foreigners, are victims. So we need more input. We're supposed to have another lady on the panel. She's called Lady Shakira. She stays here in Denmark also, who is now dealing with a teenager whose teenager is also in a situation where parenting becomes a challenge. So she had some unforeseen situations, and then she could not surface on board. So I'm suggesting we shall be having more of another discussion in line with this. That's when Mr. Mugisha's point will be also manifesting, so that we make, ends meet and everyone will be safe and happy. But on behalf of Euroforum, we'd love to thank you, the viewers, who are really doing magic. We've learned a lot from today's submissions from our panelists, who are really brave in looking at issues. But a word to everyone there, just understand that any decision you make, always you should consider the environment closer to you or next to you. And it's terrible when it comes to innocent souls. When I'm talking about the innocent souls, I'm looking at the children. It doesn't matter whether you have conflicts with your wife, it's normal. Life gives meaning with the hurdles we jump. But while making decisions, try to learn from the decisions of these panelists they've shared. Make decision considering that a child is a priority. Today, it's September the 24th, where I think in India, it's the National Daughters Day, which is being celebrated, and they're considering the dowry aspect, and then education, child education, and also, India has got many issues connected to rape and then marriage issues. So they just try to endorse this day, that September the 24th, they celebrated it today. Yes, away from that, my last remark on this will be very simple. It's very important to note that the challenges faced by the single parents abroad always vary, like the way Mr. Kalyango said. They vary depending on the factors, which are cultural, at the same time, geographical areas, and then the legal systems we're having. So all in all, the economies will determine how a single parent is going to juggle with the nurturing of the kids. But never forget, decision-making is paramount, considering that you took yourself as a parent, because it's a full-time job. On behalf of Euroforum, I talk too much and I sail comfortably, floating comfortably, but beneath me, there is always a great team which is making me possible to make things happen. And this I'll thank to, that said, I would love to thank all the team I work with. Mr. Mugisha, thank you, and thank you very much to making us connect from different areas so that we can be on Euroforum. And then Lady Joreen, thank you very much, because you really paid off very fast these programs, because you always see into this. For example, like a program today, it is courtesy of Lady Joreen. She made it happen. Can't forget the technician, the other side in Uganda, Mr. Gibson. You're doing wonders. Thank you very much. And from Finland, Lady Samantha Elf, thank you very much. That's it. Thank you, the viewers online. Keep sharing these programs, and always let us know any other subject or topic we'd love to deal with. As per now, allow me to say thank you and goodbye.